Look at your spending habits. Can you find the weakest link?
Does your month go something like this? You start out at the beginning of the month having high intentions of sticking to your budget, yet by the end of the month, you discover that you have overspent. A viewer named Georgine wrote to us and said, is there a way that I can look at my spending habits and pick out those areas that are contributing most to my overspending? Yes, there is, and that's what this video is about.
If you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
Georgine had a great word for this process of looking at your spending habits, and she called it finding her broken link. It's those things which are most contributing to the overspending.
Let's look at ways that you can evaluate where your weakest link or your broken link is and how you can fix those items.
The first thing that you can do is gather as much information as you can about the ways that you're actually spending your money. And sometimes that reveals where those habits are that are actually derailing what you would like to do with your money.
Let's give them some examples. And one of the things, we've mentioned this on past videos, is to evaluate your grocery receipts as soon as you come in from the store. Look it over carefully. Are there some items in there that you bought that you really didn't need? Maybe you paid too much for an item. Maybe you bought a brand name item that you didn't need to. But take a very critical look at those receipts.
Another habit that we've gotten into that helps us to find those broken links is that we are monitoring our utility usage throughout the month. Our utility company lets us go into our actual usage and see how we are using, say, electricity and natural gas. And that is one of the ways that I discovered that when we use our wall oven upstairs, it would immediately double our electric usage. And that's when I knew, wait a minute, I need to look into using some lower energy appliances.
Another thing you can do is keep a gas expense book. My dad was the one that set this example. And from the time that I bought my very first car until now, I have written in every gas expense into a book that I keep in the glove compartment. I put in the book the date, the mileage on the car, the amount of miles that I've driven for that gas period, the amount that I pay for gas per gallon, and the amount of gallons I put in the tank. This gives me, of course, and the cost of the fill. So this gives me a really good overview on how much I'm driving, how much I'm paying for gas, how much the car is using, what kind of economy the car is getting, and I can evaluate whether I'm doing the best kind of driving that I need to do to save on gas, and am I getting gas at the best prices?
Another avenue of actually collecting all the data and information quickly and easily is to make sure that you are keeping an expense tracker of your daily expenses. We do this online. We use Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar. It's free, and you can set all of your budgeting goals for each month and then track how much you're spending in each of those budget categories. Now, when it comes to recording our total monthly expenses in each budget category, I created Excel spreadsheets for that allow us to quickly and easily see, for instance, how much we spent on any given budget items in the first 6 months of the year and figure out if we need to make any changes for the last 6 months of the year. If you're interested in getting your hands on a copy of those budget spreadsheets, they're available. There'll be a link to request more information about the financial budgeting binder, and that is available in the description of this video. We'll have a link.
You also might look for patterns in your spending. Maybe there's a certain type of spending that you do for certain reasons. For instance, do you like to do stress shopping? I know a lot of people call that shopping therapy. Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah.
Shopping therapy. This is not a good practice. If you're really stressed out, you might be better off taking a walk, putting on a nice piece of music to relax by, doing something maybe to de-stress other than shopping, because shopping is going to cost you.
Another thing that might be common when it comes to like spending money throughout the month is something that Georgine actually mentioned in her email. And she said that she notices what happens is she's spending the vast majority of her money in those first 2 weeks of the month. So she gets those last 2 weeks of the month and she's constantly running short, meaning she's caught in that cycle of feeling like at the first of the month she's got to play catch up because she's hardly spent any money the last 2 weeks of the month. Now, one of the ways to change this spending habit is to see if you can take a look at when your major bills are due. Let's say right now, Georgine has 4 major bills and they're all due those first 2 weeks of the month, which is why she's running short the last 2 weeks of the month. If she can look at those bills and determine, are there 2 people or 2 organizations that are sending her those bills? Let's say it's her cell phone and let's see the other
Internet.
bill is her internet provider.
Yeah.
She's going to contact those places and say, is it possible to move my billing forward just 10 days? And a lot of times the companies will say, yeah, we can skew your bill so that it's due like, let's say the 18th of the month instead of being due on the 2nd of the month. This is actually one of the strategies that we teach in our budgeting binder for people who are paid bi-weekly, like Larry was paid bi-weekly for many, many years. And we made sure that we had basically the same number of bills due the first 2 weeks and the last 2 weeks because paycheck number 1 went for the first 2 weeks and paycheck number 2 for the last 2 weeks. Creating a list of your top 3 priorities for any given month is super helpful because it allows you to know not only what your priorities are for spending money, but also your priorities for saving money.
It's always good to know exactly how you need to allocate the money so you're not falling short on the last day of the month. What is your biggest area of struggle when it comes to overspending? And what are you doing to compensate for that? We would love for you to leave some comments in the comment section about what you're doing.
Now, while you're in the comments section, scroll up just a little bit and make sure that you do something else for us. Hit like for this video, will ya? Because that really does help us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe for great content every week.
Create and track your quarterly goals.
At the first of every quarter, we pick 3 to 4 budget areas that we're really honing in on for the next 12 weeks and trying to reduce our expenses in those specific budget categories. Now, after we've picked the budget categories, we then set 3 to 6 what we call action steps. Those are the specific steps that we intend to take over that 12-week period in order to reduce those expenses. Why is that important? Because first of all, it's written goals and we put it in front of our face, meaning that automatically we are more likely to succeed at those goals. And secondly, it allows us an opportunity every 12 weeks to look at our budget and see if we're making the progress that we're hoping to make.
Kick temptation out of your house. You know, if you're not putting things in front of you that tempt you to spend money that you shouldn't spend on, then you're not going to spend it. One of the things that I kind of keep away from, I try to keep away from perusing on Amazon. If I do that, it's deadly. I'm always going to find something that I need if I'm looking for it. And it's the same with going shopping. So if you cut out those activities and maybe find something else to do, you're liable not to be spending money you don't have.
I think that's part of the problem with the internet. Tell us if you
boy.
agree with us, because all of a sudden, like when we were kids, if you were going window shopping, you had to get in your car, you had to drive to where the shops were, you had to get out, you had to walk through the shops. Even if you went to the mall, you had to do those things. But now you can window shop and just see what's available right from your home or from your computer, and there's no effort involved in it. So it makes it super easy to hit that big red buy button before you even think about what you're doing.
If you're getting daily emails from Wayfair or Sam's Club or whatever you happen to be signed up for, those can also distract you into buying something that you probably weren't planning on buying and don't need. So I would say if that's a problem with you, unsubscribe to those and don't look at them. If you don't look at them, you're not going to know what's there. You're not going to buy them.
We are super big fans of a 24 to 48 hour wait period where you say, you know what, I'm really interested in that. Maybe you're even going to put it in your cart. so that you can get back to it in 48 hours and take a long, hard look at it and say, do I really need that? Several of our viewers actually sent in this tip where they have a 30-day wish list. They put items on there that they think that they're going to want or need in 30 days, and then they review that wish list in 30 days. And they said the most remarkable thing is that like half of those things that were on that list, they don't even make it to the next 30-day period. They're crossed off the list because they've realized by waiting just 30 days, they didn't need them in the first place.
It's amazing how you can control impulse buying by putting these into practice.
One of the things that we have found super difficult and super important at the same time is to periodically do a real, honest self-inventory.
Yeah.
Where you just sit down and say, how am I feeling about my spending? Am I spending too much? What am I doing to contribute to this problem? And none of us likes to say, well, you're part of the problem. We're part of the problem when it comes to overspending because we're the ones that are doing the spending. And it's okay to look at yourself, evaluate, and say, what do I need to change in order to make this happen?
Another thing that you might be doing, and we all kind of do it, is we compare ourselves to others. Maybe we visit a friend's house and they have all matching furniture and their
Matchy-matchy, we call it. Matchy-matchy.
and their bathroom is just perfect. Everything's color coordinated and beautiful and up to spec. And, you go home and you look around and you think, yeah, our house isn't really very nice. So let's start upgrading. And then that can snowball into a real spending spree. And I think it's good to kind of learn to be content with what you have. I think your friends aren't really going to care what you have in your house. They're really there to visit you. So I think we just have to really evaluate carefully if we are comparing ourselves to others and trying to be like them.
Part of the problem when it comes to overspending may be that you are just impulsively spending. And this sort of harkens back to several of the tips that we've already given, where we are basically saying, take a long, hard look at whether you need that item, whether it's the right time to buy that item. Certain items go on sale during certain times of the year. If you waited another 6 months, you might be able to get it at a discount. We just actually talked about this in our video a couple of days ago. We talked about this principle of knowing when to purchase an item, particularly if it's a more expensive, high quality item. We're going to make sure that that video is listed in the description of this video so you can take a look.
We were looking online and found a recent study by Finder that shows that 64% of people that buy something on sale are later unhappy with their purchase. And that, to me, represents a good example of an impulse buy. They saw it on sale and thought, oh, it's a great deal, and they go buy it. And they haven't done any research. They really haven't looked into how well the item performs, haven't looked at reviews on it. And so they end up with something that they're not happy with, and they probably stuck with it if they've had it a few weeks and then they can't return it.
Interestingly, this study also showed that when it comes to comparing men to women, when it comes to buyer's remorse, we are literally statistically in a dead heat. So it doesn't matter which gender you are, you may find that 64% of the time you regret buying what you bought. In what two areas are you most likely to feel buyer's regret? It is clothing and shoes,
of all things.
So 74% of men reported that after buying clothing or shoes, they have been dissatisfied and unhappy with the purchase, and 80% of women have.
So you might want to consider taking a little more time before you make a purchase and making your purchases more intentional.
Those two things alone, time and being intentional, could very well reduce the amount of times that you have buyer's remorse.
Don't fall for sales tactics that will tell you that you have to buy the item within 24 hours or you're not going to get the deal. We actually made a major mistake on a large purchase of Salad Master pans. This was, 20 years ago we bought those. And the deal was, the sales come on was, you have only tonight to make this decision to get this much off. And we bought it, and we bought the pans. We weren't really planning on buying new pans. We just had these people come over because Hope kind of knew the guy that was selling them. And we ended up, what were they, 2,000?
I don't even want to know.
It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. Now, they're good pans, but had we done our research, we would have found another set of pans that would have been equally as good for at least a fourth of the amount of money.
Let's just say, for instance, that part of the real problem with spending more than you planned is that you don't really have a plan in the first place. If you find this whole process of just even putting together a workable monthly budget to be very frustrating and very confusing, we actually have a 4-step process that we use to put together our budget, and it will take you less than 30 minutes. We did a video on it. That video, if you haven't watched it, is right over there. Go take a look.